is Valley News Live at 4.
We start with information that's new at 4. Good afternoon, everyone. There will not be a special election to recall Fargo school board members because enough valid signatures were not submitted. The petition was an attempt to recall school board members Nikki Gullickson, Seth Holden, Jim Johnson, and Tracy Newman. The sponsoring committee needed 4,144 signatures for each board member. As you can see here, they submitted more than that, but the school district's business manager today says many of those signatures were invalid because they were signed by people in the West Fargo School District or were residents of Horace, Harwood, Bismarck, and Moorhead. The school district says it's not enough to trigger a recall election. They add the members cannot be subject to recall twice, so the 4 board members will carry out their terms, which expire in 2024. As COVID-19 cases, along with general health care needs, continue to rise, Sanford Health says its hospital is near capacity. An unfinished wing in the hospital is now being converted to usable space. They hope to have it open by later this winter, which will add 32 more beds in the Fargo facility. Right now, Sanford says there are 544 patients hospitalized in Fargo. Of those, 35 are COVID patients, 10 are in the ICU, 8 are on a ventilator. Last week, Sanford announced they would be cutting non-elective surgeries by 30%, which has patients waiting longer. They say the hospital has been nearing capacity for weeks, which is a concern. Police and FBI agents are combing through a swampy Florida wilderness area looking for Brian Laundrie. The body of his fiancee, Gabby Petito, was found in Wyoming. The coroner has classified her death as a homicide, but has not yet revealed how she was killed. We go to Jerika Duncan now, who's at the search site.
Where we are standing again, the Carlton Reserve in Venice, where the search efforts will resume for Brian Laundrie. The 23-year-old returned home to Florida without Petito on September 1st. Laundrie's parents say he left home a week ago. They reported him missing to authorities on Friday. Investigators restarted their search through the 24 acres of land here. It is very swampy. There are alligators, snakes in the reserve, just to give you an idea of what these investigators are dealing with in this search. And back here at the Carlton Reserve, there were rumors overnight that police did have Brian Laundrie in custody, but authorities quickly said that that was not true. Of course, things could change at any moment in cases like this. We will, of course, continue to keep you updated with this developing story. In Venice, Florida, Jerika Duncan, CBS News.
You can also download the VNL News app for the very latest on this case and your local breaking news. Hutch joins us now with a first look at the forecast. Hutch?
Stacy, thank you, and good evening, everyone. Look at the beautiful blue skies across the valley. It's been a little on the breezy side. Temperatures on the up and up, though, as we've been fairly quiet on the satellite and radar. In fact, we could turn the radar off for the rest of the day. I don't expect any showers this evening. Look at the temperatures warming to near 70 for many, even in central Minnesota. We do have near 80 in Hallock, 74 for Devil's Lake, and right now, Grand Forks, you are in the mid 70s at this hour. Take a look at those winds flapping the flags out there at the Dakota Magic Casino. We're in the 70s through sunset, then quickly slip into the 60s. Our wind will be less gusty after sunset, but it will still be cooking throughout the overnight hours at around 10 to 15 miles per hour. Wind, even though sometimes can be noisy, keeps us from getting too cold too fast with this dry air in place. So even though we're clear, we won't cool off that much in the overnight forecast. Well, make sure you follow us on Facebook, and you can scan this to get the latest. Download that Valley News Live weather app. It is free. Search VNL Weather in the App Store today. Coming up, we'll have details on some cooler weather and even a chance of a few sprinkles in that forecast as well in a few moments.
All right, thanks, Hutch. Police in Bemidji are warning about 3 armed and dangerous men involved in a shooting at an apartment complex. They say that happened early this morning at Pine Ridge Apartments on 30th Street Northwest. Police received several reports of gunshots, including from one caller who told police he'd been shot and was driving himself to the hospital. The man told police 3 men surrounded his car and the gunman began firing into his windshield. Police say the victim's car was riddled with bullet holes, broken windows, and blood in the driver's seat. He was not able to give a detailed description of the suspects. Police suggest people living in the area of the apartments be cautious and stay aware of their surroundings. We have an update on the fate of thousands of migrants camped out on the southern border. The Associated Press is now reporting many people from the mostly Haitian group are now being allowed to remain in the U.S. while they seek asylum. That's after a number of recent deportation flights back to Haiti. Border Patrol agents that were seen on horseback apparently grabbing and lashing out at migrants are now on administrative duties pending a Homeland Security investigation. The Biden administration has sent additional Border Patrol agents to the area as more than 8,000 migrants remain in the camp. On the Mexico side of the border, officials there are also limiting the migrants' movements, leaving many essentially stuck and fearing deportation. We're getting a closer look at one of the major ripple effects of the new anti-abortion law in Texas. Women are crossing state lines and traveling greater distances for care. At one clinic in Colorado, the appointments are back-to-back all day. Since the Texas ban, they say as many as 40% of patients are from the Lone Star State, including a woman who traveled more than 1,600 miles round trip for an abortion.
Many of the clinics in surrounding states face restrictions on the number of appointments that someone needs, on waiting periods, on other barriers to care.
They're literally begging to get in and be seen as quickly as possible.
It's not just Colorado seeing an increase, even with a 24-hour waiting period. A Louisiana clinic says they're booked out at least 3 weeks. Experts say for women who can't afford out-of-state travel, options are limited. The Catholic Diocese of Fargo is starting its 40 Days of Life campaign. That means you might be seeing more protesters outside the clinic downtown Fargo. The diocese says they plan on stationing people outside the Red River Women's Clinic 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. The clinic's website says it's looking for volunteers because it is frequently the target of anti-abortion protesters who participate in sidewalk bullying. President Biden announced today that the U.S. is doubling its purchase of Pfizer COVID vaccines to share with the world and encouraged other wealthy nations to increase their contribution as well. As Natalie Brand reports, the president convened the virtual global vaccination summit as federal health officials consider a booster shot to some Americans.
At a virtual summit, President Biden pushed wealthy nations to do more to increase global vaccination rates.
The only way to get this done is for everyone, everywhere, is for all of us to step up.
The president said the U.S. is stepping up, buying another 500 million doses of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine to share with the world, bringing the U.S. total to more than 1 billion doses.
To beat the pandemic here, we need to beat it everywhere.
Currently, less than 45% of the world population has received at least one dose, and in some low-income countries, the rate is as low as 2 to 3%.
World leaders participated in the global COVID summit as discussions continue here in the U.S. over plans for booster shots.
An FDA announcement is expected shortly after its advisory committee recommended a third dose for Americans 65 and older, as well as those at high risk. A CDC advisory committee began its 2-day meeting on boosters Wednesday.
Given the types of immune responses we're seeing here, as well as the real-world evidence, this bodes well for the vaccine to provide substantial benefit to those individuals that are boosted.
Over on Capitol Hill, a teenager was among witnesses who testified virtually Wednesday at a hearing on COVID's impacts on children.
This has been a tremendously difficult time, I think, for everyone, but really young people in particular.
The head of the American Academy of Pediatrics testified that child COVID cases have increased exponentially with the spread of the Delta variant. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
The AAP president also testified that more than 21,000 children have been hospitalized and 480 children have died as a result of COVID since the start of the pandemic. State officials say out of the 1.3 million people who attended the Minnesota State Fair this year, 228 confirmed COVID cases so far can be traced directly back to the fair. Health experts say that 228 count is really only relevant to the number of people who actually got tested after visiting the fair. Leaders with the Minnesota Department of Health say 70% of Minnesotans have been fully vaccinated, and many people chose to mask up at the fair, which also helped keep transmission numbers low. The rail crossing on Broadway between 4th and 6th Street North is scheduled to close for repair starting this coming Monday. The area will be closed until October 11th, and you will also not be able to cross if you're walking or biking. The city says the closure is to allow for repairs on the rail. Northbound traffic will be detoured along 4th Avenue to 4th Street North. Southbound traffic will be detoured along 6th Avenue to Robert Street. The Fargo Marathon is this weekend, and here's a heads up on some road closures because of the races. Broadway will be closed to all north and southbound traffic on Saturday, as well as cross traffic moving east and west from 2nd Avenue North to 4th Avenue North. If you're heading downtown, the best way will be to take Main Avenue and park at the Island Park ramp, or go north on Broadway from Main and use the NP public parking lot. Today's the first day of fall, and some of you are wondering how you can take care of your yards and gardens for the season. Don Kinsler with NDSU says fall is the perfect time to fertilize because it will repair any damage that happened to the lawn over the summer. He says fall is also the perfect season to plant bulbs.
And fall is the perfect time to plant tulips as well. Then you'll have those blooming next spring. And when shopping for tulip bulbs, it's very important to get the largest size that you can find. Oftentimes the local garden centers will have tulip bulbs of a larger size.
There's a breakdown of tips and recommendations on our website, valleynewslive.com. A new study looks at why people fall for a scam. Still to come, we'll explain how a person's worldview can put them at a higher risk.
Ooh, we have the autumnal equinox today at 2:20. Look at these temperatures right now in the 30s in parts of northern Canada, Alaska. For us, though, we're pretty fair as we begin a new, season. We'll have details in your hour-by-hour forecast on a cold front that's approaching as we head through the day tomorrow. Details are next.